What's up, guys? There's been a lot that has happened since the last ICP video I made. There's been a couple videos from James Allen. There's been a couple from Jerry Banfield and one from Zero to Hero. And there's probably been several others. I want to address those. And I want to tell you what I think Caffeine AI is going to be capable of and what it's actually going to be. Now, what are we doing here? Well, I've got this whole center console torn apart on this Audi S8. And yeah, not afraid to dig in and get deep in the weeds. And that's been the same thing with ICP. If you guys saw my last video, you could tell that, hey, I've been in the weeds. I've been in the trenches, and I've been in crypto since 2013. So when I'm telling you this stuff, I'm telling you this stuff from experience. I'm telling you from someone who's jumped in, and I'm telling you from someone who's used AI for the last couple years and has been in crypto, like I said, since 2013. So that being said, what was said by Jerry Banfield, by Zero to Hero, and by James Allen? Well, first and foremost, Zero to Hero, very good videos, love your channel. And, it comes from more of a data analytics perspective and looking at the data, looking at the charts, looking at the burn rates. When is ICP going to turn deflationary? He's given us a lot of good metrics. Good job. I love the videos. So, he's more kind of looking at it from that. And he's more, from take your emotions out of the equation. I do agree with that. That's part of the reason why I'm not a maxi on any chain. I've had some people come at me for that. Oh, you're not just totally invested in ICP. No, I'm not invested 100% in any particular chain. I'm looking at these different technologies, and I exercise diversification, and I try to keep a pulse on the market and keep it flowing, because anytime where I've gotten overweight or I've gotten too emotional on projects and stuff like that, it typically doesn't work out well. So I do agree with him there. Keep your emotions out of it. Jerry Banfield, he can push traffic. Like I've said before, one of the big reasons why I got really investigating into ICP back in October of 2023 was because Jerry Banfield was hot on ICP, and I said, we need to listen to Jerry Banfield. This guy can push traffic. I saw him do it to Dash, saw him do it to Steam. So it clued me in. Thank you, Jerry. I've always been entertained and informed by his videos. He's obviously the single person who on-ramped the most people onto the Steam blockchain was Jerry Banfield, hands down, no questions asked. So, and I'd say the same thing with ICP, that he's let a lot of people know. And one of the recent videos that he made, that really, one of the pieces that really stuck out was, he said, I haven't found anything better. He wasn't happy that Dfinity didn't get back with him. There's been certain times where he's been upset, and he was upset that Dfinity hadn't gotten back to him. And he said, well, I haven't found anything better. And I would agree that ICP is the most advanced blockchain. It has the greatest capabilities. Now, is it going to fulfill its capabilities or sort of fulfill its destiny has yet to be seen, because if it did, if it was marketed correctly, and if there was some killer kind of games and dApps and stuff like that on ICP that drove tens of thousands or millions of users to ICP, then I think it could become a top 5 crypto, and it would kind of take its rightful place for its capabilities. But that's yet to be seen. That hasn't happened yet. Now, so I would agree in part by that, but I would say that other chains are beating them on marketing and various other kind of capabilities. People have to decide with their money, and there is competition. So for instance, somebody could maybe stake Polkadot over on something like Kraken and earn 12% or so, and they wouldn't be necessarily locking up for 8 years to do that. I know he did address some of the stuff. You don't have to necessarily lock up for 8 years. You could even earn 7% or so locking up for 6 months. That being said, the main thing that ICP has is being able to store everything on chain. But the issue from a developer standpoint is we don't know how to work with the data properly, and we don't know how to deal with the canisters properly. Should we deploy more canisters? How do we interact between canisters? What's best practices? We don't know. And we've tried to figure out. We've tried a lot of different things, and the more things you try, you notice that your cycle burn rate, and then you're kind of eating up ICP, and then it's like, well, let's say you burn through 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 ICP trying a bunch of different stuff, and you don't know if you're doing it right, and you have nobody to answer your questions. That's frustrating. So that being said, certainly, we want to know that kind of from Dfinity. We need more support and stuff from a developer standpoint. Now, as far as James Allen, one of the big things that he said that really resonated with me on his latest video was Dfinity does not need groupies. And I would agree with that. There's a lot of people acting very cultish within the ICP community. And it reminded me a lot of when I called the collapse of BitConnect back in the 2017-2018 cycle. And it was obvious to me it was a pyramid scheme and a Ponzi scheme stacked on top of each other. It was obvious this thing was going to collapse. And I had people just coming at me hard. People were hating on me. They were saying I was racist, this and that. It was just crazy. So, it felt very much like that. And then when I called the collapse of FTX in 2022, and you can go back in the videos, guys, go back to November of 2022. I called the collapse of FTX 11 days before it happened. And, I had people coming at me then. They saying, get a job, and they probably lost all their money on FTX or something. Who knows? So, at the end of the day, any of the stuff that we are saying that looks like it's negative towards ICP or you're taking it as negative, we are not trying to take the food off of your plate. We want to grow the pie so everybody can feast. This is not our first rodeo. I've been in crypto since 2013. We are not afraid to get our hands dirty, deep in the weeds. So that being said, it's just constructive criticism of anything. So I just think it's funny. Just some of the people are like, you don't know Mataco, just admit it. Well, it's a new programming language, so we're all feeling our way through it and trying to figure it out and learning it for the first time. So I don't know what you expect, so at the end of the day, it's just a lot of wacky comments. And James Allen had said that too, Cityscape, that just people coming at him, and then when he would clap back at him, then they're acting like, oh, you're unstable, man, you're angry. So yeah, and the funny thing is, people wouldn't talk like they wouldn't talk like this if they were just like right in front of us. They just wouldn't do that. So all that being said, he says that he's pretty much done being an ICP influencer. I understand his reasoning. It's there's a lot of people in the ICP community are getting too much into an echo chamber, or they're parodying the 5 or 10 main kind of talking points with ICP. And this can kind of be dangerous because, like he said, they don't need groupies per se. Dfinity doesn't need groupies. For the most part, they've made their money on this. And where this worries me is they don't need to chase after the next dollar to eat. They've already kind of secured the bag, so to speak, with it. And we saw this with EOS and with Block One. Once they had made the money and the community really wasn't being supported, and then they kind of turned over the EOS mainnet to the community. And, then they just sat on their 160,000 Bitcoins, and they raised that in the ICO. And, the investors were thinking, well, that was going to be the war chest that was going to be spent to build this ecosystem and build something that was, capable of, potentially becoming number one. And, being the Ethereum killer, or taking over and being bigger than Bitcoin kind of thing, and having real world applications on it and stuff like that. And we just, unfortunately, the community for the most part felt like they were left high and dry. And now when I go back to EOS, it was like I was looking at the Anchor wallet, one of the main wallets on that ecosystem, and hadn't been updated in a couple years, and you can't kind of continue to work on this stuff if you're not being funded and you have no runway and stuff. So I've seen this before. I've seen this kind of thing before. And I'm not saying Definity is just going to leave everybody high and dry. Certainly everybody keeps reminding everybody that, hey, they've got this roadmap that's, projected out 7-8 years in the future and all that. And I hope so. And I hope they're able to provide support and stuff like that. But we're not really feeling the support right now this early. And is it really that early? I mean, if it launched in 2021, we're in 2025. And then there's community members saying, yeah, I think it's going to be next cycle. You can't be affording to just be waiting to the next cycle and the next cycle and the next cycle for something to come to fruition. There's competition out there. And this is, this is player versus player out here. So again, some people have also said, oh, you're not totally invested in ICP, you're invested in other stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to be a maxi on any of this stuff, because I've seen people just straight out just lose their minds, going all in on one thing, doubling down, and then it doesn't work out and they lose it. So, you get too many emotions. It's kind of like Zero to Hero said, get too emotional into these, and, you're not really just basing it on kind of what's being presented and all that kind of stuff. And I would agree with that. All that being said, what is Caffeine AI and what is it going to be capable of, in my opinion? So I think it's going to be something like Cursor with the audio kind of attachment. You can attach audio to Cursor. It's called Flow. There's others as well that you can attach to this so that you can talk into it. You can take the verbal commands. And, I think that in the background, it's going to be using one of these kind of known models, where that's Gemini, or that's like, Claude's, the Claude Sonnet 3.5 or something like that. But it'll be kind of this like front end interface, kind of like Cursor or like Bolt.new, but it'll be, you can talk into it. So take the audio, and then there'll be other prerequisites where, for the authentication, it's going to use the internet identity. And then for, for the backend, instead of doing something like Supabase, for a database kind of thing, it'll write to chain, write to these canisters. So they probably have it set up in these kind of these defined things. Now, I think where it's going to run into issues, this is just speculation, guys, total speculation, just working with working with AI type stuff for the last couple years. So then I think what'll happen is people will give it, these narratives and stuff like that. And I think what it's going to be able to do early on is probably be able to come up with a simple one-page kind of, website that might be able to give you a weather feed, or, you might be able to put up a feed showing, all the tokens that are in the ICP ecosystem, or, make a checklist, for, my daily checklist or something like that. It'll just be something kind of simple, and then it'll be like a one-page thing. And I don't think that there's going to be a lot of complexity to it, but it's kind of a start, and people kind of play with it, and it'd be like, wow, okay, I could see this progressing. And then as maybe the models get more complex, it'll get more complex. But I think that the issue is going to be the verbal aspect more than anything, because at the point it has errors or it doesn't do something the way you want it to, it's easier to copy and paste these errors into these AIs to have it interpret what the error is and where the problem is. And if it's all audio based, I think that that's going to kind of run into an issue. And what I've noticed with using these different tools is they start hallucinating. They start doing their own thing and coming up with their own reality, and even deleting code and these kind of things. So any kind of project of any complexity, it seems to get very confused. And I still stand by this. If you're going to build anything of any complexity, you have to already know how to code. Otherwise, it's going to break, and you're going to get kind of spun around backwards, and you're not going to know what you're looking at. You're not going to know how to fix it. So I would say it's making kind of low to mid-level developers better if they can understand obviously how to fix it and how to get out of it. I don't think newbies would be able to come up with anything with any of this stuff, like whatever Bolt.new, Cursor, all these kind of things. They're not going to be able to come up with anything very complex at all. If you don't know something about coding, if you don't know you don't have any bearing. And then more advanced kind of senior level developers, it could help them if you were stuck and you're just like, dude, what's going on with it? Why is this thing erroring out or whatever? And it's a syntax error, and then maybe they're able to throw it in there, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, it's that. I forgot whatever there was this extra comma in here or something like that. It can maybe help them on that, but it's not going to help them on this kind of like way more advanced stuff. That's my thinking. Again, am I bullish on Caffeine AI? I think it's going to be a good talking point, and it's going to be a good use case for maybe like a demo. But I don't think that anybody's going to make the next social media platform on the internet computer with this thing, or make some kind of like fully immersive game built on Unreal Engine 5 with in-game assets that are NFTs for the guns and the armor and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be able to do that kind of thing. And it's hard to say how far off we are from that. If we're a year off, 2 years off from that kind of thing, it's really hard to say like how advanced the AIs are going to get, how close we really are. But all that being said, guys, I would say a lot of the drama in the ICP world, if the price moved up and we're at 30, 35, 40, 50 and stuff like that, then a lot of the trouble and a lot of the stress goes away. But how do you get there? You got to have the developers to develop on the chain and know how to deal with the data, know how to deal with the canisters. And I just, if so much of the resources is being clogged up with something like Bob, I want to see the resources being used up by a first-person shooter that everybody's onboarding. There's 1 million users playing some first-person shooter, or there's some new metaverse and there's 1.5 million people have onboarded. I want to see social media platform that's got 3 million users, and everybody from TikTok, who is going to get kicked off tomorrow supposedly in the United States, flood onto a social media site that's built on the internet computer. I want to see the resources being used up by that, not something like Bob that's just using up resources to use up resources. I just don't see the kind of value in that, and it's very similar to what I saw on EOS with clogging up the CPU and the RAM with these miners. It's just, dude, we've seen this stuff before. It's just, a lot of this stuff's like deja vu. When you've been in crypto as long as I've been, you just see the same kind of talking points and the same narratives. And that's one of the things James Allen said about AI. He was living in San Francisco, and he was going to these different events, and you see these people just kind of going on, as a talking point, as a pitch and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I get what he's saying. If you get too much into parroting the same stuff and being this groupie and saying the same 5 or 10 talking points, but never getting deep in the weeds and never seeing the plight of people who are actually trying to launch on there, or seeing what's happening when investors are coming and they're assessing this. Do they invest here? Do they invest in Hydera? Do they invest in Polkadot? Do they invest in Solana? Do they build on Solana? Do they build on Polkadot? Do they do this? If you don't see kind of that in sort of their thought process and why people are going away, then you're just kind of end up in an echo chamber. So anyway, guys, I'm still invested in ICP. I'm not leaving. And, but that being said, I think there's definitely improvements to be made. And I think as a community, hopefully Dfinity, hears us out. And I do think there is a big opportunity for people who do figure out usable practices with the data and with the canisters to consult with, obviously, different projects that are trying to launch on there to effectively, use the data and interact with the canisters. And I do think there is a big big opening to, you know, kind of have hosting and all that kind of stuff and data storage and stuff on ICP. But why has that not happened? It's because this is what I'm saying. People can't figure out how to properly work with the data and work with the canisters. We don't know best practices. How should we be doing this? Should we be launching a bunch of different canisters? Should we have all the data in one canister? You know, there's a million different questions, guys. So anyway, guys, what are your thoughts below? Follow me on all social media at Brian Phobos, YouTube, Instagram, Steam, Twitter, Hive, DTube, Arena, Blurt, everywhere. And I've got to finish this up. Got myself a mess, but like I said, not afraid to get deep in the weeds. See you guys.